That says, let love of the brethren continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it. And we just had this event going on in church. It was called Consume. And people came over here from all over Georgia, and they needed a place to stay. And we let them stay here. And also, if you can love a stranger, you can love your brother. Because if a stranger came up to your house, most people might say no, but Christians would say yes. And if you can do that to a stranger, you can definitely do that to your brother. And the third verse is Matthew 7:12, which a lot of you might know. It's called the Golden Rule. In everything, therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you, for this is the law of the prophets. And love your neighbor, that's the second commandment, and the first one is love God. And if Jesus says that's the second commandment, that's pretty important. And I was looking at a couple other verses that you don't have to turn to them, we'll turn to them later. Colossians 3:12-14 and Ephesians 4:1-3. I noticed both of them had something in common. It was bond and unity. They both had the same words. And I was talking to Fletcher last night when we were coming up with the lesson today. And one of the things we came up with is that reminded us of super glue. So I got saying super glue right here. And it says, it is strong. It says one drop holds a ton of weight. It says it's fast. It bonds in seconds. And it's easy to use. It's versatile. You go on to anything. And I even did a little bit of research. And it's the story of super glue. So, back a long time ago, in 1942, Dr. Harry Coover was working for Kodak Research Lab. And he was looking for this clear plastic scope, but instead he accidentally invented this long word, cyanacrylate, which is more commonly known as super glue. 9 years later, he's working at this company called Tennessee Eastman Chemical Company, looking for a strong polymer for jet canopies. So he's doing his research, and he remembers about the cyanacrylates. And he wonders whether it will reflect light, because that's what he wants to find. So his partner, Dr. Fred Joyner, no pun intended, so they put this film of it between two prisms of a refractometer and discovered it didn't reflect light at all. That's not good at all. And they were stuck together, and no matter how hard they pulled, it was not separate. So when we go to the executives, they think they're in trouble because it's pretty expensive, and you have to buy another one of those. But instead of being just everybody thinks they did wrong, they actually got praise out of it, and the Eastman Company put it out onto the market and called it Eastman Compound Number 910. And I was doing some more research about stories, and some uses for it is it saved lives. Because a woman was fishing in a rowboat in some lake in Minnesota. She fell asleep and awoke because her feet were getting wet. So she cut off a piece of leather from her boot, and she glued it into the hole, and that stopped the leak. And she couldn't swim, so she would have died if she didn't have had that super glue there. It also lifts people up. You might have seen this before. Whenever they prove how super glue works, they wear the helmet, and they put a single dot on that helmet, and it lifts the person up completely off the ground. Back when it was coming out, people really didn't believe this stuff works, so nobody bought it. And Dr. Cooper went on to a game show called I Got a Secret. and lifted the host Gary Moore off the ground through bleeding, only one drop. And also, it is wounds, because in the Vietnam War, in the first aid kit, they had a little thing of super glue, and they put it in there to heal injuries. Like, some farmers, if their cows get hurt on the barbed wire, they put a piece of tape and glue it back together, and then it just healed perfectly fine. It's a lot cheaper than stitches. And I was thinking that love and super glue, they have a lot in common. They save lives. Love saves lives. People, they don't have love, they just don't like to live. And love lifts people up. I mean, we just sang the song, and God is love, we need to love. And He heals wounds. When people are feeling bad, if they know somebody loves them, they feel a lot better. And most obviously, it bonds and unifies them together, just like I was mentioning in Colossians 12:14, which is where we're going to turn to right now. So as those who have chosen of God, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. Whoever has a complaint against anyone, just as the Lord forgave you, so also should you. And believe all things, and put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity. And then my other verse that I compared to that was Ephesians 4:1-3, which says, "Therefore, I, the prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with all patience, showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace." There is one body and one Spirit, just as also you were called in one hope and one call. And I'm also going to type, I'm just going to read this, 2 Peter 1:5-8. Which, if you want to read that, you can. I'm just going to summarize it. We should add brotherly kindness and love to our lives. My final point is, even though we're doing a very good job here at our Church of Christ, like I said, we have consumed, we let people stay in our houses, we have a lot of outreach programs, and we have brotherly love for that with other people. I'm going to turn to 1 Thessalonians 4:9-10. For indeed, now as to love of the brethren, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves are taught by God to love one another. For indeed you do practice it toward all the brethren who are in all Macedonia, but we urge you, brethren, to still excel more. That is what I have to say about that. The lesson is going to have more to say to us right now. Don't drop that shit for